Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Leadership Satsang. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Mendirata. Thank you so much for joining me week after week for these Satsang sessions where I intend to share with you important and relevant insights in the space of leadership and spirituality. And given that we are all celebrating the Ganesh Utsav in Mumbai and all of Maharashtra, I thought it is such a perfect time for us to understand what this kind of festivity brings with it. When we are celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi, we are also celebrating knowledge. He's a god of knowledge. He's a god of wisdom. And as leaders, we need to leverage on both knowledge and wisdom. But sometimes we don't quite understand the difference between the two. As much as it's important for us to develop our knowledge, it's also important for us to get wiser as we go along this journey of life and leadership. What really is the distinction between the two, and how do we develop wisdom as leaders to be more effective in our leadership abilities is what I want to share with you all today. Do you think it will be useful? Give me useful in the comments if you think it will be useful for you to understand the difference between the two and how you can develop wisdom. Will that be a useful topic? If we could spend some time on understanding how can we elevate our knowledge into wisdom to lead more effectively. Will that be useful? As you say useful in the chat, I'm opening the comments to have a quick look at your response and also welcome you to this live session. So do let me know if a topic like this can add value to you. And I have no doubt that you believe it can. That's why you're here, right? So thank you so much for joining in. And let's just quickly have useful in the chat. And while you do that, also prepare yourself to be here in the present moment by chanting Om that we always do. So we will do exactly that together now. Let us sit comfortably wherever we are. And even if you're watching this recording later on, please make sure that you do this chant with me and then go ahead with the rest of the session. So may I invite you all to please sit straight and comfortably wherever you are. If you're on a chair, see if you can put your feet on the ground, your spine straight, your shoulders relaxed. Take a nice deep breath in and out. It's important that we learn how to be in the present moment so that we can make the most of it. And the more you practice this, the easier it gets for you to be in the moment, in every moment, and as often as you want. So let's bring this mindfulness in. It's a practice that pays us in a lot of ways, in a lot more ways than you can imagine. Take a nice deep breath in and close your eyes, please. And breathe in and out a few times before we start. I will keep the count for you. We will chant Om 5 times. We inhale, and as we exhale, we chant Om. And then we inhale again, and with the next exhalation, we chant again. Let's prepare ourselves. Let's deep breath in. Shanti. 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 So your palms together and gently place them on your eyes, in your ears and face, your neck, your shoulders, and your entire body. And slowly come back. I hope you could feel those vibrations with this chant. It's just so magic. If you keep this practice going, it'll take you no time to center yourself, to ground yourself whenever required, to be able to forget what happened in the moment before now and what is about to, and to just be here and now in the real sense. It's an experience. So as much as you know about it, the wisdom comes in with practice. That's the distinction between knowledge and wisdom. I'm going to share three very important aspects of it and what distinguishes the two. But before I do that, let me welcome you all and request you all to please share which part of the world are you joining me from today. Good to have you here, Chida. Thank you for joining in. You know, recently we've been having a lot of tech issues, and I can only hope and pray that it doesn't happen today, because a few things are just out of your circle of influence, as I say. But what you can do is show up every single time. So that's what I'm trying to do here, and I need your support with that. So I'm here every Tuesday, and on the days and the satsang sessions that got interrupted because of any tech glitch, I made sure that we put out a post sharing all the points that I wanted to share with you during the session. I hope you're following up on that as well, in case we're not able to complete a session here for issues and problems beyond my influence. Please make sure that you make time to read the post that follows soon after. If not today, then tomorrow morning, you will have a post on the satsang session. So with that said, let me set the context of the topic that I chose to speak about today, which is, knowledge versus wisdom. When it comes to leadership, the best way to understand the distinction is to know that if knowledge is the tools, the toolkit that you have, wisdom teaches you when to use the right tool and when is the right time to use them. What is the right time to use the right tool is wisdom, right? So collecting knowledge, gathering knowledge through information, through data, through reading, through learning is very, very critical for our growth. But what really makes our career progress, what really helps us to grow exponentially, what makes us a more effective leader is not just the knowledge that we've gathered, but how we act upon that knowledge. That action that we take on knowledge is what makes it into wisdom. So let me share with you three very important distinctions that I need you to look at. Because as you look into your own life, you will realize that there have been times in your own experience where you had all the relevant information to make an important decision. You used the information available to you, but you didn't get the results that you wanted. Has it ever happened to you? Give me a yes in the chat if you've experienced that you had all the knowledge, right? You had all the information, you made the best decision you could basis that information, and yet you didn't quite get what you wanted. The result was not good enough. And what makes it good enough, what makes it better, is when we go beyond just knowledge, when we learn to act upon the knowledge, and that's when it becomes wisdom. So let's look at these three aspects, the three distinctions. And if you want me to share that on the screen with you all, then I would like you to say BIO in the chat. Yeah, Chida, let's have BIO in the chat. Surendra, thank you for joining in. Thank you everyone for joining in. It means a lot that you're here. So give me a BIO in the chat and I would know that you want me to bring it on. And what I want to explore with you is a very, very important understanding to develop as leaders. How can we elevate our knowledge into wisdom to lead more effectively? How do we gain knowledge? Like I said, by reading, by doing courses, by learning through relevant and credible sources, right? By gathering information, analyzing data. This is how we gather knowledge. This is how we elevate our knowledge. But that knowledge needs to get to the next level, which is when it becomes wisdom. So here is the first distinction. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is judgment. I want to share with you a case study which very beautifully expresses how knowledge is not enough. So if you remember, there was this story, going around in 1986. It was quite a sad and, in fact, a very, very disturbing story. This is when NASA was sending 7 astronauts to the space. And they knew that there is a concept called O-rings, and all the astronauts and scientists are well aware of O-rings, which is basically part of the shuttle that suppresses the fuel and the heat within the shuttle, within the space shuttle. And that needs to be tight, and it doesn't work as well in extreme cold weather, right? And that particular day, when they had scheduled the launch of the space shuttle, the weather was exceptionally cold. Knowing that O-rings will get affected in cold weather is the information that they all had. The wisdom required at that point was to take an important call, an important decision to prioritize safety over schedule. But we went ahead with the schedule and in the process lost all 7 astronauts in the air in just 70 seconds after the launch. It was horrifying to see how 7 astronauts just got lost in thin air in 70 seconds because someone out there who had the leadership position chose to stick to the knowledge and not use the wisdom, the information that needed to be converted into taking a real action, a real decision. That is what was needed back in 1986, and we could have probably saved the lives of all these 7 astronauts. Let me tell you that we all try to do our best as leaders. Okay, I am at no point pointing fingers at anybody at all. All I'm trying to tell you is that your years of experience sometimes can come in your own way, making you feel that you've seen enough, you know enough. And that enough is sometimes not good enough. If we are not able to use that information in a wiser manner, in the right manner, at the right time. And that's what it takes to be a leader, to be able to take a call which might not be so popular, which might not be a very easy call to take. But it's not about choosing the easy part, the easy route, right? It's about doing what's the right thing to do. And that sense of what's right and what's not comes over a period of time. And that is what brings us to a very important question that we need to ask ourselves. And I want you to make a note of this question, because with these questions, you will develop the wisdom necessary that is required to be used in your own space. And the question is, how is this knowledge that you have in your domain, on your subject, relevant to solving problems in my team or organization? How is this knowledge that I have relevant in solving the problems that I need to solve, whether for my team or for my organization? How can I use the information I have, the knowledge I have, to be more relevant and make better decisions and solve problems for my team and for my organization? I need you to make a note of this question. I need you to think, what does this question mean to you? And in your own real scenario, in your work scenario, in your professional space, how can you be more mindful of using the knowledge that you have on your core subject, on your expertise, in solving problems? It is not so straightforward if it isn't done in a conscious manner. So let's bring that conscious effort to go beyond information and use our own judgment, which comes with experience, which comes when you give yourself a chance, when you allow yourself to sense what is the right thing to do at the right time, without waiting for you to learn from a mistake that sometimes can be irreversible, like bringing these lives back, right? Nobody intended it to be this way. But unfortunately, that's what we got. That's what we got by relying just on information and not leveraging on the wisdom that some of the leaders and scientists had back then, knowing that the conditions, the weather conditions are not suitable for the launch. So there are many such stories that I could share with you, many case studies of big brands and popular leaders who've made these mistakes. And we're all humans and we get that, right? But a human being also needs to know how to be. The more you be in the being, the easier it gets for you to use that knowledge into action. Please understand what I'm saying here, right? When you're always in a rut, when you're always just doing something or the other, you're learning because you should be learning. It's good to learn. Then you're doing what you need to do because that's how it is done and you've always done it that way. That's when all the knowledge that you're seeking has little or no value. When you learn to be, when you learn to stay calm, when you learn to be in the present moment, is when you're able to use that knowledge in a more sensible, meaningful manner. That is what helps us to solve real problems in real time. That is what helps us to make better and more effective decisions. It's not about how many decision-making tools have you learned. It's about having the wisdom to use those tools at the right time. That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And there's another important point that I want to make. Are we ready for that? Just give me ready in the chat. Is this resonating with you? Are you able to go back to your own experience and understand where, despite having the knowledge, you did not make the decision that you could have? Because that is what makes us wiser, right? Despite having so much knowledge, the real benefit is to use it when it is needed the most, right, Surendra? Thank you for summing it up so well. Rajshri, good to have you here. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, everyone, once again. It's just always so good to see you all and more importantly, see you participating in the comments, right? So please make your presence felt. Let me know that you're here by answering the questions that I'm going to be asking you as we move to the next important distinction between knowledge and wisdom. So here is another very important aspect of knowledge and wisdom that we have to be mindful of. Knowledge can be taught. Wisdom must be experienced. No one can teach you to be wiser. We can teach people on a particular subject or a particular skill, right? But we can't teach wisdom. We can impart knowledge. And you will see when an old employee moves on, right? An existing employee is moving on to another job and a new person takes over. What do we call it? We call it as a knowledge transfer. That whatever I know, I'm going to pass it on to, say, Rajshri, and now I'm just giving the baton to her and I'm moving to my next challenge. What am I transferring? I'm transferring my knowledge. Can I transfer my wisdom? No. No one can. Wisdom comes with experience. Let me share another very important, popular case study. I'm sure you all have learned it in detail. It's a case study that we all have learned many things from, especially when it comes to being relevant, when it comes to having an understanding to know how important it is to build a foresight, how important it is for us to stay relevant. So in 1990s, as we saw Kodak falling down to the dumps, we realized that a company, despite being a leader in the space of film photography, knowing everything about the market, technology, customer, even digital cameras and photography, they knew it all. They had some of the best people in the management. And yet, they ceased to exist today. Where did they fail? They failed to recognize the emerging trends that were happening in the market. What was taking over? Their inability to change, align themselves with the changing reality is what led to the collapse of an enterprise called Kodak. Remember, we used to call it as Kodak moments when we would have good moments and, a moment that needs to be captured. We would say, this is such a Kodak moment. Kodak became a synonym for happy times, for good moments, for capturing moments. That's how strong the brand recall was. That's how far ahead they were in the game. But the game changed, the plot changed, and they failed to change themselves accordingly. Now, what happened here? You have the knowledge. You know everything about photography. You know everything about market. You know everything about digital photography as well, digital camera as well. In fact, you invented digital camera. What you failed to do was to leverage on the experience. That said, that markets change, trends change. New insights are important. New trends have to be looked at. Foresight needs to be developed. New people and younger lot needs to be heard. Customers need to be heard more closely, more carefully. And that is what keeps us in the game. That's what helps us to lead in any industry, any domain that you're a part of. Knowing enough about what you do has very limited value if you're not willing to understand what needs to be done tomorrow, what you need to be prepared for the future. How do you stay a step ahead? That wisdom comes from the experience of being in the industry, of being in a market that keeps changing its trends every now and then. And this is not even a specific market that I'm talking about. It's across the board, across industries. The way we used to work, we don't work that way anymore. We don't interact that way anymore. We don't think that way anymore. We don't consume knowledge. We don't have similar experiences anymore. Nothing of what we experienced a decade back remains to be exactly that way. Things have changed, and they've changed drastically. Organizations that have continued to prosper, organizations that could thrive, are the ones who had the foresight, who had the wisdom to stay ahead and go beyond just the information, beyond being a market leader in that moment and knowing what it takes to lead the market in the times to come. Are we taking something away already? Yeah. Is something opening up for you? Are you getting that moment which is, making you think about the way you're leading, about the way you are carrying on with your own career, whether you are an entrepreneur or you work with a corporate? There is a path ahead of you, which we call as our career path. And the pace at which you will walk on this path depends upon how wise you become along this journey, this learning journey called life. Right? As much as you will keep enhancing the knowledge that you have, it's about the wisdom that comes with experience, wisdom that helps you to take the right decision and make the right judgments. Does it make sense? Give me MS in the chat, please, if it makes sense. Can I have MS make sense in the comments? Two very, very important aspects I've already shared with you. Yeah, wisdom to sense what is not obviously visible. Yeah, Surendra, absolutely. Foresight to see the future is wisdom. Absolutely right. And this is not something that can be mentioned in books, that can be given to you as a part of a knowledge transfer from someone you are taking over from. It needs to be understood, sensed, felt, right? Experienced. That's where wisdom comes from. And the third very important distinction that I want to share with you, hoping that you will bring all of this to action, is to reflect upon how you conduct yourself, right? So a question, say, for example, even on this, on how you will bring in your experience, I want to just put out a question to you here, a question that you may want to ask yourself when things don't go your way, when things are not as per what you thought they would be. An important question to ask is, what did we learn? How could we handle this situation in a different way next time? How could we do this differently next time? Right? So if you have projected something and your projections are failing, your team is not able to deliver to the projections, whether they are sales projections or market projections, an important question to answer is, what am I learning in the process? What do I need to relearn? What do I need to unlearn? What do I need to do differently? And it's a question that you need to ask yourself every single time things don't go as per your plan. This is a process of evolving wisdom. This is where wisdom is taking shape. It's taking over. and we're going beyond just what we know. We're now learning to use what we know in our action. We're learning to become wiser. So third important distinction of knowledge and wisdom is that knowledge is mastery of the known. Whatever you know, when you master that, that comes from knowledge. Right? You already have a skill and you become world's best at that skill. That is gaining knowledge. It happens through gaining knowledge. Wisdom, on the other hand, is embracing the unknown. Right? That's the real meaning of wisdom. It's not about mastering what you already know. It's about embracing what you don't know. So you remember the financial crisis we all faced in 2008, when Lehman Brothers, who were probably sitting on a lot of important financial data, they had all the financial models in place. They knew how to manage risk better than many other people. They understood subprime mortgage, credit rating, and forecasting in a much better way than many other people and organizations put together. And yet they failed. Why? Because they lacked the understanding. They lacked the wisdom. They lacked the ability to step back and see how they are unknowingly complicating and creating this financial collapse that we all had to bear the brunt for. You know the story. I'm not going to go deeper into that. But you see, if any of those top leaders could have stepped back to see the broader implications of their actions that they were taking back then in Lehman Brothers, they would have understood how all of this is going to come crashing down, not only for them, but for the entire market. Even at a global level, we faced and felt the impact of the financial crisis back in 2008. All the knowledge of financial industry, all the data analysis and the skills attached to it did not come to rescue for an organization such as this. And many other organizations. You know, the list is a long one. And as you go through the list, you will realize that there was no dearth of knowledge. Absolutely no dearth of knowledge. Would you agree? Give me agree in the comments if you say that, yeah, absolutely. People we're talking about who contributed towards the financial crisis were the financial gurus. They were the leaders. They understood it much better than many other people. And yet, they failed because they didn't have the wisdom to embrace the unknown. They could not see what was the implication of the actions that they were taking today. So an important question I want to leave you with is to ask yourself, am I relying solely on my past knowledge, or am I open to new evolving insights? Trust you me, we make a lot of assumptions about ourselves, especially when it comes to the way we lead. We think we've got it right because we've read about it so many times. We've heard it from so many people. And when you keep hearing something, you start believing that you've got it. What you fail to see is that that knowledge has still not seeped into action. You've been listening to it, yes. You understand it, absolutely. You don't oppose it anymore, right? You're not rebelling it anymore. You are not questioning it either. You're accepting, and yet you're not doing anything about it. You should blush twice a day. Got it. Makes sense. Accepted. Not done. You should exercise every day. Yes, got it. Makes sense. Not done. I know this, and I do this because I choose to. I choose to. And when I start increasing this, right, the subset of what I know, when that starts increasing is what adds to our wisdom quotient. And that is what truly matters. That is where we bring in growth for ourselves and for the organizations we lead. I hope something is opening up there at your end. I hope you're understanding and realizing the importance of developing our wisdom, the importance of going beyond just the information we have and using our judgments, the importance of not just getting stuck with understanding what can be taught, but also understand and learn through experiences. Not just stick to the known and become the best at what we know, but be open and willing to explore and embrace the unknown, because that is what makes us wiser. And a leader who intends to be effective in the way they lead have no choice but to work on their ability to be wiser in situations which are tough, especially in crisis, in tough situations, in difficult situations. I would like to conclude by saying something very, very important that I hope stays with you. You know, knowledge will make you competent. It's not, it definitely will. Knowledge will make you competent, but wisdom will make you indispensable. Because it's you and your wisdom that changes the entire scenario. This is how you manage it. The wisdom that you bring to the table is not something that can be transferred. It can only be evolved with conscious effort. So here's the last question I want to leave you all with. How can you transition from simply knowing to truly understanding? How can you create this transition for yourself from simply knowing what you know to truly understanding what needs to be understood? Because that, in real sense, will make you wiser. And that, in turn, will make you an indispensable and effective leader. I hope that's how people perceive you in your environment as you work mindfully towards becoming more wiser than you were yesterday. Wish you all a very happy Ganpati. I hope you're enjoying the darshans as I am. And I hope you're gathering all these blessings so that you can give them away in your own environment and bring with it an important decision that you must take internally in your own mind and soul, that I want to consciously translate everything I learn into actions that can help me to make better decisions and solve problems in a more seamless, effortless manner, so I can call myself wiser than before. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm waiting to see you next week with another important insight in the space of leadership and spirituality. Till then, please take good care of yourself.